Hello and welcome to another Comedy Slab. We're here all week, just like our material, all week. Have you tried the veal? I'm Adrian Lacey in the deep southeast of England. His nibs throwing in caustic asides, barbs from up above, and I only mean above geographically, not in any other sort of ethereal sense. 170 miles away in the Midlands. Come in, Shane O'Connor.
Tonight, this is
your life.
I know you forgot occasional wheezes as well.
Ah, yes.
I've got a very wheezy laugh.
And was it true that Eamon Andrews was a major shareholder of LWT, which is why his show went on for so many decades?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I heard that rumour, but it could be just some bitter employee.
Yeah, they were very powerful men, weren't they? People like him and Hughie Green, who used to do a talent show, pre-X Factor, wasn't it, called Opportunity Knocks? And
Provoke the Counts.
I mean, that amongst some silly folks. He was Canadian, wasn't he, Hughie Green?
Yeah, couldn't help it.
But yeah, they were very powerful men, so it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you. I miss This Is Your Life. You know, I was saying in last week's Comedy Slab that I flitter about on YouTube and watch, various. It's wide and varied, the subject matter. But one of the things that you can get on there is old This Is Your Lives. I was watching Richard Beckinsale's the other day, and halfway through the show, and you wouldn't see this on telly today, Richard Beckinsale lights up a fag. It's like,
oh gosh, yeah, those are the days, weren't they?
Yeah, could smoke on the TV.
Yeah,
I remember people telling me though that about when I worked at Pebble Mill. And they used to say about, some of the stars used to. Remember Pebble Mill at 1? They used to have that.
Who could forget Pebble Mill at 1?
Lunchtime show. And because I worked at WM and they were upstairs, and the celebrities who were on Pebble Mill at 1 used to come up and they'd be interviewed on the radio then. And they said they had people like Les Dawson there, and he'd be there having a fag in the studio, and the tech ops could have a fag. Everyone could smoke in the studio.
When I joined the Beeb, it didn't say no smoking. It said, I mean, by then they were trying to reduce smoking. It said, kindly refrain from smoking or something like that, which in other words, we're not banning it. And of course, any smoker who looks up at a sign, sees the word smoking, they're thinking, oh, I must light up. So it probably made things worse.
It was the hardest thing I ever did was giving up smoking. And I have Paul Mckenna to thank in small part.
Which small part? Oh, sorry.
He only had a very small part.
Wait.
No, I had one of his CDs. There's look into my eyes, not around the eyes, look into my eyes. And you're back in the room.
And you stubbed out all your cigarettes on the CD?
On my eyes. I put 3 weeks up casualty.
Well, I worked with a certain disc jockey called Paul Mckenna. I wonder if by any chance, well, they are related.
Yeah, when he was a DJ, yeah, he was. That was quite a nice thing. Again, he was another one I've interviewed, and again, really nice. I mean, you would think he would be quite intense, wouldn't you? I don't know what he was like when you worked with him, but chatting to him, fairly easy.
He was very approachable. He was fairly straight off the boat, Radio Caroline, when he came to Chiltern Radio, which later got satirised by Steve Wright as children's radio, I think.
Oh, right.
In some of the send-ups. But I once had to play a segue, so 2 songs, as you know, back to back.
Oh, so I wonder what that was.
And I didn't really explain it for you.
They always used to say to me, Shane, the segue. And I'd get on my little machine.
They'd say, no, not that segue.
Wheel around the room and wonder why they're all shouting at me.
That always makes me think of Ricky Gervais. It was post The Office. Did you see that? I think it was a one-off.
Is that the one where it's David Bowie?
I don't think so.
He did a Comedy Lab thing for Channel 4 where he...
Not a comedy slab.
No, he was... I wonder where they got their name from.
Yeah.
And, can we sue?
Peggy Sue.
And he was in the off. He was like in an office environment, but he was a David Bowie fan.
Right.
And so he was in a meeting, you could hear his voice, and then the camera like pans around the room, and he sat at the head of the table in full Ziggy Stardust costume with the face paint and everything.
Oh, beautiful. 6 hours in makeup. No, I was thinking of the show where he comes gliding in on a Segway. And I don't remember much about it, but it was sending up his newfound fame, in effect, which made you think, oh, right, at least he's still got some distance from it. But it went so much the other way. Like his head had got so big that he went everywhere in black leather, I think,
right.
and dark glasses. And Stephen Merchant, of course, his sidekick from The Year Dot and co-writer and all of that, the tall guy with a beautiful Bristol accent, right? I think it's a Bristol accent. It's certainly West Country.
It's Bristol, isn't it? Yeah.
Every time he couldn't refer to him as Ricky, he had to say Ricky Gervais is coming in now, and Ricky Gervais is doing that, and Ricky Gervais. And but that is a bit of a tick of people once they get famous that they tend to have their brand name used in full.
Yeah.
But we digress, as ever we do. So the comedy Slab, well, we simply put a different comedy each week on the slab to dissect, see who salutes, if we like it or we don't like it, or things that if we could only tweak them, if we had the power and the glory, how we would feel about that and what we might do differently. Who are we to be so presumptuous? But yes, I'm Adrian and he's Shane, and we are presumptuous. But anyway, I set the homework for this week last week, if that makes any sense. And as if that's not complicated enough, the added complication was that in the intervening time, the show we're about to slab is no longer available on BBC Sounds. Unless, of course, you've left it so long to listen to this edition that it's come round again and has been repeated on, say, BBC Radio 4 Extra and is then available for another 30 days. I know, I can tell, because we can see each other on Skype. I've totally lost Shane.
No, I'm listening.
He's doing some internet shopping. Is that Tesco? Or
how much is 5 fluid litres? What? Hang on,
an awful lot of beer.
No, I'm not. I'm not internet
You're
shopping.
not
I was just actually while you were
distracted.
saying that, I was just looking to see if there's anywhere that you could actually buy it. Because I'm thinking, because very often now you can go onto iTunes or stuff like that, and you can go and.
I've got a cunning plan, but I haven't even said what the show is yet. But
we did last week.
Yeah, okay. But if they weren't, you know that, I know that, but does he know that?
Oh yeah.
The Absolutely Radio Show is the title of the show. I've got, if you can't find anything that's for sale, I've got a free alternative, certainly in the UK, and certainly if you've got the Channel 4 app, All 4, which has all 4 channel variations, including E4 and all the other ones. It's not film. If it's Film 4 on the app, anyway.
They got the adult one. 4.
That was unnecessary and unusual. Anyway, just search for Absolutely there, and you will find it. And it helps. It does help if you search for it in a Scottish accent, because yes, it is a Scottish production. Although. John Sparks is one of the team. He's not Scottish. He certainly doesn't sound it. He sounds as English as they come.
Isn't one of them a Welshman?
Well, they certainly have a Welsh character, or a couple of characters.
Yeah, John Sparks is Welsh.
Oh, is he? Right, okay.
Yeah.
I sit corrected. Well, in which case he's one of his characters is very Welsh, and it's Morwenna Banks.
She's Cornish, isn't she? She's English.
Is she? Right.
She's married to, don't you? You know whose wife she is.
It's not Gordon Kennedy, is it?
No. Or if you want me to do it in your feminist way, you know who her husband is.
Oh, was that? Yeah, Madonna's husband had to call himself Madonna's husband rather than I'm Guy Ritchie.
Mr. Madonna.
When he was there. Yeah. Mr. Madonna, yeah. No, do tell.
David Baddiel.
No way.
Way?
Way?
Way.
No, yeah. If I knew that, I've forgotten it. I once saw David Baddiel in a restaurant, and we'd gone to a Chinese restaurant, me and some mates.
Yeah.
And he was with a lady, and I wonder if that was Morwenna.
Oh, probably.
That was in North London.
If it wasn't, she'll want to know who it was and what the date was.
Well, exactly, yeah. But it was quite a few years ago, and I was very, very drunk. Anyway, so the show is the Absolutely Radio Show. It is a sketch show. Here's the amazing thing. The original TV show started in the late 80s. I've managed to confuse myself because I almost managed to persuade myself I'd seen it being recorded. But I don't think I did, but it was being made. No, hang on. I did see one recorded. Wow. I've just, you've heard of false memory syndrome, FMS. Well, this is true memory syndrome, TMS.
That's test match special, isn't it?
Yes. Anyway, so yeah, well, that's neither here nor there for the dear listener. But anyway, it was nice for me. But the incredible thing is to tune in on the radio by happenstance and to hear them going on the radio and thinking, gosh, that doesn't sound like anyone's aged. Is this an old radio show or a newer radio show? And it's brand new. And the thing is, it's 30 years plus since the first Absolutely TV show. And it's fantastic. I think it's the same lineup. And you would have to say the same characters. Now, that's either very good, durable characters or complete arch laziness by the writers and creators. I actually think it's the former. And I just think everyone sounds so on form.
If you wanted to be cruel, you could say it's the same jokes as well from 30 years ago.
That would be very cool. Well, but to some extent, they would say, I think they'd be all right with saying, well, they're running gags.
Yeah.
A lot of them. Like Stonybridge, they're this in the middle of nowhere town in Scotland has a council, and the running gag is nothing ever happens there. I mean, you could have said that in 1988, and it's still true 2019. But here's one of my favourite characters. I'd be intrigued to know after this, and I will be asking for your headline, Shane, because I said it as homework for you. So I'm looking for your reaction in a headline after we've heard the first of 3 audio clips from this particular show. And I should say, actually, I've managed to forget again. Oh, was it Series 3, Episode 4? Which sadly, has most likely disappeared as far as you're concerned from BBC Sounds. But you never know. There'll be stuff out there. And as I say, Channel 4 stuff's out there anyway. But I'd be intrigued to know whether you enjoy this character as much as I do, because it is Mrs. David Baddiel in the guise of a girl. And heads up, warning, Shane, I'm going to be asking you, particularly now you're a father of 2 young kidlets, how old you think the supposed girl is, because that intrigued me. Anyway, so this is Morwenna Banks. I don't think this girl even has a name, but she shares with us, as she has done since the late 80s, all her pearls of wisdom and the maturity of her not so many years.
Yes, I do know what is global warming. First of all, an important scientist did go on the telly, and maybe I think it was the one what does smile all the time with the rude name. Oh yes, Professor Brian Cox. And he did say, the planet will die because it is making too much greenhouse gas. And the greenhouse gas does not mean when your nan does a fart in the garden. Anyway, the greenhouse gas does make the Earth's crusty bit much more hotter than it used to be in history. And in history, it was always freezing cold. And that is why King Henry VIII had to wear big puffy pants, so he could stuff them full of hot water bottles and dead wives. And in Great Britain, where it's only supposed to be summer for 1 week per year, it is getting boilinger and boilinger. But everyone is happy, and your nan does wear no jumper, just her big bra like 2 torpedoes, and says, phew, what a scorcher. And your mum does drink a pint of wine at lunch and say it's too hot for leggings.
The character's actually called Little Girl.
Oh. How do they think of these names?
Yeah, I know. There must have been a huge production meeting for that one. Do you know, it was, years and years and years ago when we were both, had hair like Leo Sayer and and we were as tall as him as well. In the early days of the Comedy Slab, we slabbed something that you chose. And one of the girls kept going, please be my friend. Do you remember that?
Not the way you tell it, no.
I can't remember what it was. Anyway, and I said, to me, it's like the verbal equivalent of dragging your nails down the blackboard. And I have to say, I love Morwenna Banks. I think she's so talented and so funny. I just, it's like a female, the Terry Scott character, isn't it? My brother, that kind of.
My brother. Yeah, I suppose it is. Even down to the not quite being able to roll her R's.
But the jokes, global warming is when cows does a big honker out of his bumhole and.
Sorry, I'm obviously not sophisticated.
It's yeah. I was like,
I can only apologise.
Oh no. But anyway, so no, you got off to a bad start with me with that, really.
Oh dear. Okay.
And got worse from there.
Oh, don't say that. Is that true?
My headline would be, absolutely not.
Oh, well, it's a good short headline, apart from absolutely swerve.
I'll put all my cards on the table, though, because they're very small cards and it's quite a big table. I was never a huge fan of the TV series,
right?
And now this could be racist to say, I don't know, but I've always struggled with Scottish comedy.
Racist.
Is it? Do you know, I thought it might be.
I am part Scots, I need to remind you at this point. So I would be professionally offended. The bit round the Wallet region.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm a quarter Scot.
Oh.
Indeed.
Sorry, I just swallowed a fly then.
I guess you'll die.
Yeah. Does that ring any bells with you at all? Have you ever had that feeling where you think, I struggle a bit with Scottish comedy? Well, it's different.
You know the meaning of liff, the book with all these redefinitions by John Lloyd and Douglas Adams, I think. Well, the original one. There was a further meaning of liff. Now, each of those were place names, and they described things that had never had words written for them before or coined for them. And there was, I can't remember what the place name was, but there was a word to describe the horror on waking up and realising what's his name now? Andy used to do
Andy Stewart.
Andy Stewart. There is a word for that. Waking up in the morning. Now, it's not quite as flavoursome as it used to be because sadly he's no longer with us. So there is no one to experience that anymore. But
and for people who are too lazy to Google Andy Stewart, it used to be when in the old days in the UK when we only had it was 3 channels, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would have been pre-82.
And probably a black and white TV as well. At New Year's Eve, there used to be
come rain or shine,
an Andy Stewart Hogmanay programme, which was basically a bunch of what the Proclaimers once described to me as a bunch of hookta-chookters.
You name dropper. You got away with that.
They did. It was and there was, because I said to him, "What's a hookta-chookter?" And he said, he said it's like the Highland dance. And he said like Andy Stewart, flinging the kilt and all that sort of stuff. He said they're hookta-chookters.
Well, at least they didn't say tossing the caber, which gets you arrested these days.
And that was our scene in the new. No wonder the January is such a grim month. That was bringing the entertainment's bringing the new year, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that's we didn't know any better. But
so come on, answer the question. Don't deflect.
Yeah, well, actually, I do wonder. I was going to answer your question with a question, which is: are you thinking of Stanley Baxter rather than Andy McHoots?
I'm thinking of all of it. I'm thinking of all Scottish comedy. Do you know what? And it's really weird because I've worked a few times in Scotland and stayed up there for a few days at a time when I was working up there, and I've said this to people before. That I've stayed in Wales and I've worked in Wales and I've stayed overnight in Wales. And
that's interesting because Jonah had the same experience.
and don't get all biblical on me now. Biblical proportions, and only in Scotland do you talking about the waking up thing. Do you wake up and feel that it is it feels like a very different country, Scotland.
Yeah,
whereas Wales,
you're meant to feel that.
Yeah, but Wales doesn't feel like that. It doesn't really feel as, even though it has a very prevalent first language which isn't English. You don't get that. You get. I think it's the remoteness. It's how far away from. London is totally relevant. I really get why Scottish people think like London is like another planet because it's totally irrelevant to you because you're so far away.
And to be honest, you can feel that, and I'm only half joking. You can feel that going to Kent. I met some people at the BBC once.
They're all Cockneys in Kent.
Displaced Cockneys.
They're all Cockneys.
You can say it as high as you like.
I was in Kent. I was in Dover the other week, wasn't I? In Canterbury and all that neck of the woods, and they're all cockneyed.
They are cockeyed Cockneys. But I met a couple who came to the BBC just to have a little look round.
Yeah,
and they said, I just, try and pass the time of day and find out a bit more about them. And I was in a BBC ambassadorial official capacity, so I had to keep the conversation going even if I didn't feel like it. But actually it was all right. But they said, we like to come up to London once a year. That is as if it's another country. They're from a neighbouring county of Kent.
Yeah.
And you're saying, displaced Cockneys.
But
bizarre.
Go on, you're still displacing. Answer the question. Is Scottish comedy different from English? And
I don't think that was that wasn't your original question. Your original question was, did I like Scottish?
Well, yeah, but is it a different animal anyway? And even, if you think... I remember listening to Billy Connolly and thinking... I don't so much now, because I've kind of got used to him, but thinking how different he was from his contemporaries, from, Mike Harding or Jasper Carrott or even... what was the Welsh guy? I can remember his... my cousin used to love him. She thought he was fantastic. Max Boyce.
Oh, Max Boyce.
Who were all around at the time. And you can't... But there's something different about... Scottish, I don't know. There's something different about Scottish comedy.
It was done by Scottish people.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to treat it as one big animal because, I enjoyed. I haven't seen it for yonks, but you referred last week to Rab C. Nesbitt. See you.
Yeah. Could never get on with that.
Well, I liked it, but I was going out with someone whose dad was frightfully posh at the time. And he said, I can't make out a word. And I thought, well, I'm hearing it all right. And I'm not surrounded by Scottish people. Yes, I'm a quarter Scot, but really that's highly diluted. And my grandfather came down from, we're not quite sure. You have to ask my sister. She's the one with the family tree. But
wasn't from Inverness, was
Edinburgh.
He didn't come down with the 4 and 20 Virgins, did he, on the same train?
Is that a rugby song by
I think it might
4
be.
and 20 Virgins.
Come down from Inverness. And when they got back on the train, there were 4 and 20 less. I'm sure that's the song, isn't it? Was that there?
Yes, I think that was on CBBC just the other day. Anyway, no, it's CU BBC. Yeah, gosh. Now there's BBC Scotland. That's another story altogether. But so I think there's quite a gap between Stanley Baxter and who's still alive. Amazingly, he was on the radio not so long ago. And there's a drag act from the days when I suppose there were more drag acts around. That's how it felt.
Are you going to answer the question or not?
No, I'm going to filibuster.
But, hang on a second, let me talk to the judge. My lord, can I treat the witness as hostile? Or at least offensive?
Here's the thing. I'm saying, when I am answering it, I'm saying I don't want to treat it as one beast. Therefore, it doesn't make sense for me to say, oh, I love Scottish comedy, or no, I don't love Scottish comedy.
Can I just say
I love bits of it. Yeah, you can.
Answering a question
It's serious now, friends. He's waving his remote control at me. That's how bad it's got.
You know why? I'm trying to change you.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm not going anywhere.
What? Answering a question is not saying, I'm not going to tell you. That isn't answering a question.
It's an answer. My lad, I beg to differ. Anyway,
should we have another clip? It's well overdue.
Yes, I don't think I'm ever going to answer it now.
You're not, are you?
No.
Actually, play the clip and we can have an argument about whether you're going to answer the question without people hearing us.
Well, strangely enough, you're the one playing the clips in this time. Usually it's me.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
So I need reminding the name of this clip and hence what it's all about. Was it something about parks, did you say?
No, that's the last one, I think. Is this something to do with Terry? Oh, yeah, Two-Line Terry.
Got your glasses
that's your
Two-Ton Terry from Terrington. Oh, no. I'm still suffering from the after effects of Benny Hill a few weeks ago. Bless him. Yes. Well, I can't remember where I cut the edit because we take it in turns to do the edits according to whether we set the homework. I'm not sure. I think this introduces itself. I think there's a female voice that introduces it. So I'm going to take that risk and say nothing more except that play in, please, Mr. O'Connor. Audio clip number 2.
And now it's time for the third part of Two-Line Terry, who had many hits in the 1940s and 50s with his short two-line songs.
It was now 1954, and Terry hadn't had a hit record for over 2 years. However, Two-Line Terry's fortunes changed when he met a pretty shop assistant called Victoria Sponge. And he was inspired to write the number 3 hit, Beautiful Bonnie Shelf Stacker.
Victoria Sponge, beautiful Bonnie Shelf Stacker. She loves to be covered in dairy cheese. I think she's a bit of a cracker.
The couple fell in love and got married within the week. For their honeymoon, they decided to get away from it all and go off on a tobogganing holiday. But on the Alpine slopes, things went downhill.
Up high in the mountains where the air is so thin, I got onto my toboggan and went for a spin. I got overexcited when I saw my wee bride, lost control of my toboggan, sliced off my backside.
I got to say, that was the highlight of the show for me.
You were giving away on the Skype feed, I can see at least, that you were enjoying that.
He was my favourite character out of all of them. And the fact that his girlfriend was called Victoria Sponge, I thought that was because that happens in real life, doesn't it? I was watching a TV program the other day, an American TV program, and the caption came up to say who the woman was, and her first name was Crystal, which is quite a pretty little name, isn't it? Really, I suppose, and it's quite innocuous, unless your surname's Glass, in which case you would avoid it, wouldn't you? Like the plague. So you kind of so knowing there is a Crystal Glass out there, I'm sure there must be a Victoria Sponge somewhere.
There must be. She's probably married to Two-Line Terry.
Yeah, but I mean, I like the whole premise of that, and I like the execution of it. I thought that was my favourite kind of part of the whole thing. I have to say as well, I mean, when they did an Orange Man is Bad gag, and I just thought, oh dear God, that's why they've revisited it so they could just do Donald Trump jokes.
Oh, right, okay.
And the audience there going, oh, Christ,
well, that's coming back to our little girl earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought of you when as soon as they have a go at Donald Trump, I think of you.
Yeah, I mean, not that I'm a fan of Donald
a gag
Trump
about Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah,
but it's just a bit passé now, isn't it? Really, but I like Two-Line Terry. I'm glad you chose that. You're on my wavelength, or I'm on yours, one or the other.
Basically, I think what we've surmised from that is that you like very old-fashioned type humour. Good old whoops, missus, I've lost my knickers type gags.
I just, to me, that kind of gag is all about anticipation, because you're trying to write the line ahead of him singing it, aren't you? Well, that's what I do anyway. I think
that's why he sings cracker and not cracker, because he wants to get it out before you've worked it out in your head.
She wants to be covered in cheese, where's
it going? It's got to rhyme with
Yeah, and so am I the only one that does that? I don't think so. So maybe
no. I loved it too. Although I have to say it's a bit of a guilty pleasure. But I've got a technical question for you, and I think I know the answer. But there is, for the first of the Two-Line Terry songs, there's a full orchestra. There's no way they've assembled a full orchestra for this show. He's singing to library music, isn't it? So-called library music, where it's pre-recorded. But I thought that's good use of resources, actually, as well as being a good gag. It makes it sound bigger, like he is actually accompanied by an orchestra. Well, actually, it's back to front. He's accompanying a pre-written piece.
Either that, or they've commissioned it like that and said to somebody, "Can you just, because with modern computers you can produce all that, can't you? So they can say, right, this is what I want. Can you produce that and make it sound bigger than it is, kind of thing?" Yeah, I think it's probably library music at the end of the day, wasn't it? But I don't know. I just thought. The whole idea, like the mockumentary and all that sort of stuff, I thought was kind of it all kind of worked for me. I thought that was the strongest character. It all felt a bit I don't know, punny to me. I think is that it was all very punny comedy, wasn't it? It wasn't sharp and incisive in that sense. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a place for that kind of comedy. I'm just saying that that's the kind of comedy that I thought it was. Is that fair, do you think, or not?
I think so. When I first decided to slab it, I was going to go along the lines that I felt it hadn't aged at all in 30 years. And then I kind of, in my head, I was juxtaposing it with The Pin, which may or may not be a fair comparison, but actually the point about it is that it's still got the same title and the same cast. People want the same type of gags, I think, or that's what they expect of it. It's going down incredibly well in the room, and we should say it was recorded in Glasgow, I think, wasn't it? Not a venue I was familiar with, but possibly a quite well-known one if you're no stranger to Glasgow venues.
And I kind of got the impression that the bar was open in the venue, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they were
merry.
well up for it, weren't they? I mean, the audience.
Oh, definitely, yeah, they were loving it.
Yeah,
but it got the sort of warmth that you'd expect from I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. That kind of very long-term recognition. Okay, these are old mates. Effectively, the characters feel like old friends, don't they?
See, I found it a bit weird, knowing the ensemble. And knowing the TV series and then hearing them talking about things like social media, bringing it up to date, I found it all a bit weird. Really, it was like, oh, it's because I didn't cotton on to the fact that it was a new production, a newish production.
Right. So you thought it might be circa late
I thought
80s,
they'd
early
been
90s.
in a time machine.
When you last changed your jokes yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Anytime.
But yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, it's a modern thing. I didn't realise. I have to say, that was the two-line Terry was my favourite character. My favourite sketch though was the two guys talking about the months that they were doing.
Actually, and it was only afterwards I thought, oh, should I have clipped that? And then I thought, well, there's no harm in it if people enjoy this show, provided they can find that show somewhere at some stage. Yeah, I should possibly have gone for that. It was gently mocking the old Movember, and yes, I get a bit fed up with those. You can just hear the clanking sound of some charity PR bigwig, can't you?
I wrote it. Do you want to? Shall we just?
Oh yeah. Since we haven't got it to play for real, we'll have the next best thing.
I wrote three of my favourites down. They were saying about how they were like on special diets and stuff like that. And he said, "Oh no, it's not a problem because coming up soon, it's Starch March, where he only eats things,
only potatoes
and stuff with starch in." He said, "They get a bit samey." He said, "Oh no, because the following month," he said, "it's Gore May," which I thought was really clever. Noon June, he said, "he only drinks at lunchtime."
That was a weaker one, but hey,
yeah. Pie July, I thought was quite good. And they said, what about all the drinking? Is that going to be a problem? He said, no, because I got Sober October, which could have been a real one, couldn't it, really? Sober October.
Yes. Actually, I did, for a moment, I believed it was, but actually, people talk about Dry January, which isn't really a pun, but...
No. And then he said about Dry January, or he was talking about Dry January or not having a drink in January. And he said, well, how do you get on with that? He said, oh, it's all right. He said, because the next month is Feb Brewery. Brilliant. Really clever stuff. I thought that was really good writing, like that.
Yes, so there's still that to look forward to, having issued a spoiler alert on some other things.
Now I've ruined it all, yeah.
Well, I don't think you have. So, yes, some nice writing there, and it's ensemble writing, is it not?
Yeah.
And it's a group.
Yes.
Just looking at my little crib sheet here.
It's nice to see as well that, you know, and I know they've got history and it's nothing new for them, but it's nice to see that, you know, writers and performers, I think when they write and perform as an ensemble, I think there's something special about that, isn't it? That's you know, after all, what gave us things like Not the 9 O'Clock News, you know, that kind of, you know, you're all in a rehearsal room together, kicking the ideas about. You know, some of the great comedies, I remember them saying about Blackadder and the way they used to write that is they'd have like a script, but then they go in and, you know, Hugh Laurie would throw in a line and Rowan Atkinson would say, well, maybe we could do it like this. And, you know, Stephen Fry and it's that kind of ensemble development, if you're all writers, I think nobody feels, I don't want to say anything because I'm not part of the writing team. Do you know what I mean? It's that.
Yeah.
I think it allows for greater freedom and expression.
But it can go slightly wrong. I was thinking, hold that thought. Have you held that thought?
I have held that thought.
You are holding that thought. Put it to one side for a sec. It did make me think. I've had, I can't get too specific, but 2 bits of information to the effect that it can go wrong for some ensembles. The fast show people seem to get quite. Maybe it's a sort of tour madness or something that you get with rock bands. Frankly, it's not anything unique to comedy. I had the privileges, I'm always name dropping when anyone will listen, or even if they won't, of working on all of one fast show, and I still remember, feels like I remember virtually every line that I had to cover on my sound boom. But I did notice, without naming any names, there was a weariness, a fatigue between at least 2 of the artists. But then I heard in a radio interview, which was obviously public domain, so it makes me think, well, it's not exactly a secret. Was it Mark Williams? I think.
Yes.
He made some allusion. I don't want to get the names wrong again, but he did words to the effect that you could tell they were quite fed up with each other at the end. But then, they had been on the road. Did they do a road show? But anyway, they've been working together at least on and off for quite a few years, I would think.
Yeah, no, the Fast Show Live was quite an extensive tour, I think. Yeah, and as you say, when the Fast Show Live comes off the back of, was it 3 or 4 series? I can't remember. You're right. It's like the rock band thing, and you're all living together as well, and you can't escape it. And of course, Mark Williams is a good example because he's gone on to front documentaries, and he's in that he's in that drama now, isn't he? Where he plays a priest. I can't remember what it's called, but he's doing straight acting.
Or the G.K. Chesterton thing.
Yeah,
Father
Dowling. Is it Father Dowling?
No.
Father.
Length of Dowling. No.
It's just Father Dowling, isn't it? Is it?
No, it's Father.
No,
oh,
that's American, isn't
this
it?
is painful. Father Brown. Oh, nothing could be farther.
Father
from my
Brown's
brain.
Boys.
Yeah.
Father.
Father Brown's. Stop it at once. Right. So where have we got to? We've still got another clip, haven't
Yeah,
we? Let's get on with it. Gosh.
Yeah.
I think this is a bit of a corker. It's John Sparks, and I think he introduces himself. Again, you're the man with your finger hovering over the play button, so I hope I'm right on that, and it will be self-contained with a bit of luck.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Frank Holvis. The first time I used a condom, it burst and all my shopping fell out. I was young and foolish, ladies and gentlemen. But when we were young, things were better, weren't they, ladies and gentlemen? Christmas was better when we were children, wasn't it? Every year in the town centre, they'd have this enormous Christmas tree with a star on top. Catherine Zeta-Jones was the best one. 3 days she lasted. Can't have been easy because that tree went up a long way, ladies and gentlemen. And the Christmas present I really wanted was an action man, and eventually I got one. I was so happy, I was cock-a-hoop. Made walking a bit difficult, but at least I'd got an action man. And they got lots of different ones. Paratrooper, sniper, commando. I got the action man deserter. Opened the box, he'd gone.
I mean, that joke is so old. Because he was...
I've heard it before.
Haven't you? Seriously, that was like a kind of Freddie
Or it's so
Starr.
old I've managed to forget it, but he delivered it well.
Yeah, it's like it used to be. I had a terrible childhood. My mum and dad bought me an empty shoebox and told me it was an Action Man deserter. and that's it. Like I thought, that is such an old joke. I can't believe it. But and I'm presuming the reason I don't really know the characters that well, but the reason he's called Frank Hovis is because the way it's a reference to the bread, is it? Because the adverts is that we have real butter for tea,
right?
Because he talks like the voiceover for the Hovis adverts.
But I don't think the R was like that of the voiceover.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I can't remember the guy's name. He used to be in Last of the Summer Wine, but he used to talk like, I couldn't pronounce his R's. He talked like that.
Oh, right.
And we have real butter for tea.
Well, going back to the Far Show, we know another character who can't quite roll his R's in the conventional way. I thought it was more a Lancashire thing, but I could be wrong. Do you know the name of the character? It is Far Show, isn't it?
I don't know. Who is it?
It's played by Paul Whitehouse. It's Unlucky Alf. Oh, bugger.
I don't remember.
Remember that? Everything goes wrong. Or the start of the day might be fine, literally fine, and then it will completely tip down later on.
Yes,
Everything,
yes, yeah, I remember it now, yeah.
And the joy, as with all Fast Show, the joy is there's no surprise in what happens. It's just how you get to the running gag, the punchline that goes with that character. But I remember John Spark. I'm sure I've revealed previously, and I haven't mentioned it for ages, so it's worth revisiting, although the PTSD occasionally comes back to bite me on the bum. But I did a little bit of stand-up, with the emphasis on little, in the late 80s, and who should be on the bill that night but one John Sparks. I think he was on the same bill that I was on. I'm well aware, by the way, don't remind me, he's not name-dropping me wherever he is.
He could be.
No, he won't, because I was the open mic. He might think my name was Mike. Mike was very open.
It's open, Mike. Hello, Mike. How are you?
all right, mate. But my life's an open book. He's very sweet. I mean, that lovely sort of supportive thing that you usually get from artists. And because they all want support as well. But he was incredibly much more experienced, but he used to. I mean that Frank character, yes, has been going all those years, because I remember him saying a lovely line that he delivered in character in stand up as Frank Hovis. My wife said to me the other night, Frank, she said to me, I want a family, but I don't want you in it.
I found this a really strange combination. It was almost jarring in places, because there were some really what I would call reflex gags. You would in a reflexive way you would just laugh, because like we just did then, like the first time I ever used the condom, it broke and all my shopping fell out. It's
a good gag.
He's a wonderful reflex gag, isn't it? Because people just you can't help it. You just laugh. It's just a really funny thing. And then other jokes that, I mean, the Denzel and Gwyneth sketch, this couple who were talking about.
The Welsh couple, yeah.
Yeah, and they're going on, the wheels on the bus go over your hamster and all that. It was lost on me. So it was a real dichotomy. On the one hand, you've got this really kind of, great reflexive laugh out loud comedy, and then at other times I'm thinking it was really quite childish and not very funny at all. I don't know. I struggled with it a bit. I was going to say a bit earlier on, the audience as well, to me, made it sound. It reminded me of like a social club. In the 80s. Well, I was going to say that, but you keep telling me off for references that people won't know.
If that's 70s, not 80s.
If they're not our age.
No, I won't tell you off, because you've got the perfect comeback, which is Google it, you lazy tykes.
Google it, you swine. But yeah, so
is that the thought? I see. I forgot to come back to you. I told you to hold a thought. Was that the thought you were holding?
Yeah. I had to let it go. I couldn't clinch anymore, so I thought I've got to.
Do you know what? No buts.
Do you know what did occur to me? That Action Man joke. I was thinking, I'm surprised that on the internet now there isn't a joke register that people
or to keep up with who's using what when,
or who used them first. Yeah, because I went back to find out exactly how, or to see if it referenced anybody telling that joke, because I remember it from the 70s. That one, an Action Man deserter. I just thought, that's what the internet should do. Never mind Wikipedia. They should have Jokepedia or Wikijokia.
Well, I think you've talked yourself into your next job,
okay,
and possibly becoming a multi-billionaire on the web. You never know. So I think it's that time where we must give marks out of 5.
Is it? Well, it can't be my turn again, because I went first last week.
No. Okay. I'm a bit torn, but I'm going to go with my gut, which is 3.5 out of 5. Good, solid performance. I don't think we're asking anything, or I don't think it makes sense to ask of it anything shockingly new that wasn't in the Absolutely TV shows. You can tell. I talked about the recognition of the characters, and I take on board what you say about the atmosphere sounding like a working person's club or whatever. That is what they want. They wouldn't be so warm if they said, "Oh, we've got a new character tonight, ladies and gentlemen." They'd probably get booed off.
Streets of London.
Streets of London.
It's that one again, isn't it? Really, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that reference is to, then go back through all of our podcasts, and you should find it in there somewhere.
Google it, you lazy so and so.
Yeah. until they make a Wikipedia of referencing all.
So you make it, you lazy so and so.
Oh,
don't put it on anyone else.
Oh, okay, my job again.
Oh, well,
Thanks.
sorry, I meant to say it's an Absolutely production for BBC Radio 4. I think I did, so we're covered now.
You're a workplace bully, you are. Right, what did you say, 3.5? I'm going to split it down the middle, give it 2.5. A lot of the jokes for me didn't land, and bit childish, bit predictable humour, but there were some real bright stars in there that kind of did make me giggle, and quite vigorously as well. And but at the end of the day, all is said and done, I think it has a harmlessness to it. I didn't come away as I have done previously for some reviews thinking that was the longest 27 minutes of my life. It really felt like 27 hours. I didn't get that feeling with this, and I think that is testament to the fact that it is well put together. But for me, I would have liked to have seen more of the laugh out loud and less of the okay kind of thing. So I'll give it 2.5 out of 5. So what's that come away with? A 6, doesn't it, out of 10?
I think so, and 10 out of 10 for your sums.
Thank you.
I've just been reading the blurb. Sorry, I might have to correct myself. It does say some new characters, but I don't know. I think they're sort of they still for me come under the style of even those months. You were talking about the rhyming months.
Right.
That to me sounds just like a comedy pairing they had of two of the same actors, I think, even back in the 80s. And that's not a criticism, but hey. You were going to say, you're setting homework for next week, are you not?
Yes, I am, yeah. I was going to go, actually, and I don't know what... Oh, I do. The talk of Scottish comedy. I was going to pick another radio one, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go back to TV, because, as I've said on previous podcasts, I think Channel 4 is absolutely burning it up when it comes to commissioning brilliant new comedies. Even if they weren't brilliant, I mean, the fact that they're commissioning so many is just testament to what they're trying to do for comedy in this country, and I think it's fabulous. I really do. So I thought, actually, I want to pick another one of those new comedies, which is interesting enough. Is a kind of, it's got bit of an Irish flavour to it. I don't know if you've come across it. It's a comedy called This
Way Up.
You've
just
seen
showing
it.
I've done my homework.
You've seen it, haven't you?
I've seen one of them. So, no, I'm delighted you're doing that. I was very close to putting it on the slab myself. It was between that and this, I think.
Two Irish ladies, Aisling B and Sharon Horgan, team up for their first sitcom together. I think it is, isn't it? This one, but I mean, I was just going to say, let's it's series 1. Let's go for episode 1. It's more or less just come out. You will be able to see the whole series on the website, all 4. It's going to be available. You can have a look at it. But yeah, if we do This Way Up for next week, I quite fancy that.
Okie Coke. Although I don't think they would categorise it as a sitcom, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I think they call it comedy drama, but I don't know. We'll have to look at the blurb
How
again.
pretentious.
Moi. And guess what? I have indeed seen that episode, so technically I've only got to view it one more time.
Oh, right,
but
okay.
You never know. I might have to start from scratch again, because it wasn't on the slab when I was watching it, as it were.
And of course it suits you, because you only ever watch one episode of anything, don't you? Whatever it is.
And preferably Series 1, Episode 1. Got to have a system. Right, so to the social medias. We are at Comedy Slab on Twitter, and we have a Facebook page, likewise at Comedy Slab. We'd love you to sign up to both in whichever way is appropriate and indeed legal and decent and truthful.
Or just if you want to pick one of those and just live on the sort of dangerous side for all the others. And don't forget, you can get previous episodes as well as this one by going to YouTube, or you can nip along to your favourite podcast. Can you call them podcast catchers? Is that what they call them these days now? I don't know.
Podcatchers. Save a syllable.
Podcatchers, oh, right, okay. Wasn't there a podcatcher in City Bang? I can never remember. Anyway, but yeah, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called next week. And all the other stuff as well, like Spreaker and Stitcher and all those other great ones ending in ER, which is generally where we end up after we've done an episode.
After a heavy night on the drink. Right, is that it? Oh, except to say, personal recommendation would be lovely. Recommend us to friends, family, religious leaders, politicians, chat show hosts, anyone you can think of.
Yeah, and so from us, a couple of old hookta-chookters, it's Hawkeye the New, whatever that means.
And I'm going to be granted absolution, and I'm hoping it will be absolutely slabulous.